Hello everyone and welcome back to SFF180. Thomas here, your host as always. The Tor.com novella line has become in just a couple of short years a major force in SFF publishing, with its titles nearly dominating this year's Hugo and Nebula Award shortlists. Some of their books have been great, others not so much, but the biggest feather in the Tor.com cap is that there's nearly something there for everybody. In this episode, I'm going to give you quick reviews of 4 of their new and recent space opera titles. These will be kind of capsule reviews, but if you want to read my full-length discussion of each individual book, I will link you to my written reviews. First up is Killing Gravity, the debut of Corey J. White. It's all about Mariam Z, nicknamed Mars, who is a Void Witch, a young woman transformed into an experimental post-human weapon. With telekinetic power so strong she can crush spaceships like so much wadded-up tissue, and hurl asteroids at any foe who hasn't got the good sense to get out of her way. Now all this transforming was done by an evil militaristic lab, with the awesomely unsubtle name of Mephisto. Mars has escaped Mephisto's clutches with the aid of her only friend, fellow experimentee Sarah, whom Mars saw gunned down as her escape pod jettisoned. Now, as the novella opens, Mars, accompanied only by her little alien kitty cat 7, has just sent a bounty hunter onto his great reward, after which she's rescued by the space tug Nova, captained by the gender-neutral Squid and crewed by a couple of ex-soldiers, Trix and Mookie. Discovering something rather shocking about who sent the bounty hunter after her, Mars dashes off to find the truth, even as Mephisto's soldiers are coming after her with everything they've got. The story is tight as a drum, paced for maximum visceral impact, and wastes not a word as it advances its plot. Now don't examine that plot too closely, or you'll wonder why Mephisto, presumably knowing they're chasing an ex-woman of their own making with the power to fling spaceships and soldiers about like so many Legos, sends lots of them after her anyway, or why, if there's a simple post-hypnotic phrase that shuts her powers down like a light switch, it's almost never spoken. But White is good at most of his scenes of character interaction, and I was entertained plenty by Mariam's saga, but there could have been much more in the way of nail-biting tension. White liberally borrows elements from comics, 80s cyberpunk, and SF cinema. In fact, you're most likely to come away from Killing Gravity thinking it would make a pretty decent movie on Netflix. Next, we have Dave Hutchinson's Acadie, from the award-winning author of the Europe at Midnight series. Now this is a deceptively straightforward little saga set in a distant, very Alistair Reynolds future where humanity has inhabited systems throughout deep space under the auspices of the Bureau of Colonization. Now, John Wayne Duke Faraday, is the acting president of a deep space colony founded by fugitive geneticist Isabel Potter. Potter and her fellow gene hackers, the Writers, have been on the run from Bureau justice for 500 years and are holed up in their colony in a system deemed uninhabitable and therefore no longer worth any attention by the Bureau. Now, they've illegally produced many generations of enhanced humans, some so enhanced they're barely even recognizably human. Word comes in that the Dew Line, a shield wall made up of billions of probes encircling the system, has somehow missed an incoming Bureau probe, which is eventually fired upon and disabled by one of Duke's subordinates. Now, it appears that the colony has at last been discovered, and it's time to pull up stakes and get out of Dodge before real trouble hits. But Duke isn't actually prepared for what does come. There's much here that's fantastic, particularly Hutchinson's crisp, noirish prose and the vivid texture it brings to his bizarre and multi-layered future, but the structure of the story isn't really right for its shortness, and without, I hope, being too spoilery, everything wraps up in one of those pull the rug out from under you shocking plot twists at the end. And I won't say it doesn't work, because it does, but perhaps this is my own prejudice speaking. Even when twist endings are effective, they still always feel to me like a storytelling stunt, rather than just good storytelling. But this future is freaking awesome. Now everything can't be puppies and rainbows, however, and so I must say I was disappointed in The Ghost Line, a story that wants you to think of it as Titanic meets The Shining in space. Now Saga and Michelle are a married couple who earn their living as freelance salvagers throughout the solar system, and Saga pulls in extra income from the video recordings that she makes of their finds. They're flying out under a secretive captain named Wei and her alcoholic pilot Gregor to the derelict luxury liner Martian Queen. Now, Martian Queen didn't exactly meet a Titanic-style fate. It was simply mothballed and allowed to go adrift once the Earth to Mars luxury cruise market dried up. Now Wei wants to steal the whole ship. Once they arrive, things get odd. The ship's robotic staff are all still active. When Saga and Michelle sleep in one of the luxury cabins, they wake to find formal clothing in their correct size has appeared in the closets. Gregor has no trouble raiding the bar, and walking into the banquet room, Saga finds the place full of revelers and diners in fancy dress. Well, are they ghosts or holograms? What's going on with this place? The story delivers some effectively creepy atmosphere in its early chapters, often coming very close to making Martian Queen feel like the Overlook Hotel in space. If the authors make an impression with anything, it's the clever way in which they've reimagined the concept of a haunted vessel at its root. And from a sci-fi standpoint, what is finally revealed to be happening aboard the ship is interesting. But the story's use of all these ideas just doesn't generate much tension. Mainly because it's obvious that what's plaguing the Martian Queen really only exists as a narrative device for Saga's personal redemptive arc in the first place. Suffice it to say, there are imaginative concepts lurking unfulfilled deep within this tale. Finally, we arrive at the best of the batch. All Systems Red is the first in a series called the Murderbot Diaries, and the Murderbot of the title is a partially organic security android detailed to a small crew of researchers exploring a ringed world. There's a company that contracts out all such exploratory missions, and as part of the deal, they mandate the rental of sec units, also supplied by them, to minimize their own liability and secure the necessary bonds for the missions. The company is also notorious for cutting corners and using the cheapest equipment it can get away with. Murderbot has managed to hack their own governance module, allowing them to ignore company commands, as well as mandatory upgrades and patches. And they have a pronounced distaste for the physical company of their human clients. In fact, they experience something like real anxiety in the presence of humans. To put it bluntly, Murderbot is anthrophobic, preferring to binge hundreds of hours of downloaded entertainment serials in their private cubicle. But when things start going strangely sideways during the current mission, like portions of the surface map plus key data have been mysteriously deleted, and then become genuinely alarming when all contact is lost with another team of explorers a few kilometers away, Murderbot realizes someone or someones are out to do these missions real harm. From here, what would have been merely a damn good suspense thriller really blossoms, as it becomes the vehicle for Murderbot's personal journey towards something like their own humanity. With action and suspense anchoring the story's narrative, Martha Wells allows All Systems Red to be Murderbot's whole show, allowing us the genuine pleasure of spending time with a character, both non-human and all too human, learning their place in the universe and what it really means to be free. Murderbot may not like your company, but you'll really enjoy theirs. And that is all I have time for on this episode of SFF180. Everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me. Remember, the most important thing, these are reviews. You will not always agree with me, but if you enjoyed watching, please hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe. If you have not done so, that's how SFF180 grows as a channel. Also, I don't know if you know this, but you do know that every time I post a review video, I always put the Amazon links and stuff in the description, right? You know that, okay? It's in all of them. A lot of people just don't check the descriptions. Well, anyway, they're down there. So you can also support the channel at its TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's army for $2 a month get to see my videos a day early most of the time, and all of that. I want to thank those people who are very, very awesome, and all of you who are also awesome for being great viewers. And until I see all of you next time, happy reading.